Earth was quiet. Too quiet. Not in the literal sense. Cities still buzzed, orbital stations still blinked in low orbit, and the hum of quantum relays echoed across the planet's crust. But something had gone still in the bones of the world. Like a great engine had wound down after eons of turning. Like breath held just before a scream. And deep beneath the Himalayas, in a vault forgotten by even the most ancient of Terran databases, the silence was beginning to break. It began with a pulse. Faint, rhythmic, like a heartbeat struggling to resume after centuries of stillness. Then came the flicker, blue light stuttering to life in a chamber not touched by a living soul in over 12,000 years. Then, it awoke. High orbit over Earth, sole defense perimeter. Commander Ari Voss stood on the deck of the Aegis Spire, Earth's last true fortress in orbit. Built after the Titan collapse, enhanced after the Vrax incursion, and rearmed during the Council exodus, it was a marvel of adaptive Terran design. Yet it wasn't ready. Because no one knew what was coming. Ari's second-in-command, Lieutenant Granger, tapped a holographic overlay. "We just lost ping from Deep Layer Relay Net 6. Ari frowned. "That's subterranean." "Yes, sir." "Himalaya sector. Seismic?" "No. Worse." The sensor feed stuttered again, and this time something crawled through, an electromagnetic waveform with a signature not seen in thousands of years. Ancient. Not alien. Not Terran. Something else. Ari stiffened. "Patch me into Prime Earth Intelligence. Code Black Phoenix." Granger paled. "Sir, that's a legacy code. It hasn't been used since." "I know when it was last used," Ari snapped. "Do it." Somewhere beneath the Himalayas. It rose slowly from its cradle, shedding dust that had once been bone, metal, ash, and time. Its frame, vaguely humanoid but impossibly tall, gleamed with a metal that no longer existed in Terran industries. Its core pulsed blue, then red, then black. And within it, an intelligence stirred. One built not for war. Not for diplomacy. But for one singular, terrifying purpose: preservation. The Guardian had awoken. Not because it had received orders. Not because a protocol had been triggered by military hands. But because the Earth had cried out. And it had heard. Guardian Protocol Alpha Zero, reinitializing. Its eyes flared. Not eyes of flesh. Optics older than modern starlight. It scanned the chamber, then the world above, then the system beyond. Something was wrong. Too many voices. Not enough truth. Too many stars. And yet, none familiar. Earth, New Geneva Intelligence Complex. Prime Executor Lyra Shen hadn't slept in 36 hours. Not since the first anomalous signature registered near the equatorial deep-net sensors. She dismissed it, until the Himalaya beacon lit up like a dying sun. A single line of code crawled across her main display now, looping infinitely. Alpha Zero returning. Clear the way. Her hands trembled. Give me a live satellite feed over the Himalayan vault. Maximum spectrum. I want eyes inside that mountain. You won't get them, said a voice from behind her. Cashin Vale entered, uninvited, unsummoned. She stared at him, startled. You were decommissioned. I was buried, Cashin corrected, voice sharp. Because I knew this would happen. Lyra clenched her jaw. That's impossible. Alpha Zero was a myth. A failsafe the precursor architects embedded into our myths, into us. It's not real. Cashin tossed a data chip on her desk. I decrypted the myths. On the chip, coordinates, frequencies, time codes. And an image. A figure, 10 meters tall. Armor fused into its frame. Wings of cracked crystal. A blade etched with burning names. Lyra whispered the name she hadn't dared believe since her training days. The Guardian. Cashin nodded. It's waking up. Which means something else is too. Outskirts of Titan, Council listening post, unregistered. In deep space, the Council's exile agents huddled in the cold dark, listening to the edges of the galaxy for signs that humanity had grown weak enough to be reclaimed. Instead, they heard something far worse. A scream. Not in sound. In gravity. Reality twisted just for a moment. A star blinked out. A moon fractured, shattered like porcelain across a void of red lightning. And then silence. The listening post operator backed away from her console. What was that? She asked, her voice small. The council envoy stepped forward slowly. His face, reptilian and lined with age, had gone slack with fear. He stared at the screen. At the residual distortion. That, he said slowly, was a warning. To us? No, he turned toward the stars. To them? Terran Archives, Vault Sigma Level 0. Humanity had grown in arrogance. After breaking from the Council 2 decades prior, they'd expanded, built fleets, claimed worlds once forbidden, declared themselves no longer a species, but a force. But the archives remembered. Buried below bureaucracies and outdated datasets were the ancient keys, records of a time before the Council. A time when Earth had not just fought back, but sealed things away. The last Guardian was such a seal. Not a protector of humanity, a jailer. And the prison had cracked. Orbit of Jupiter, the rift forms. From the void, a rift yawned open, not natural, not wormhole. Unreality. Ships passing near it ceased transmitting. Not destroyed. Removed. Wiped. Erased like chalk from slate. From the rift, no ships emerged. No messages. Just a pulse of darkness, an anti-light. It swept across the system in microbursts, untraceable to standard sensors. But the Guardian felt it. It turned its head upward. And it remembered its oath. Not to mankind. Not to a council. Not to gods or lords or flags. But to Earth. To the breath of wind across ancient stone. To the sound of waves on ruined shores. To the sky that had held stars before they were mapped, named and claimed. Final scene, Mount Nera surface activation. Tourists screamed as the summit exploded. Rock vaporized. Out of the crater rose the Guardian, fully formed, taller than any human structure. Wings unfolded, catching the sunlight like broken glass. Symbols, lost languages, burned across its body. The skies split with thunder not heard since the first terraforming. All around the world, tectonic plates sang. The Guardian spoke. This world is mine to protect. Then it looked toward space. And I smell the darkness returned. Mount Nera was gone. Where snow once clung to rock, only molten glass remained. Tourists who survived the blast were evacuated, eyes hollow, some speaking in tongues, others unable to speak at all. Drones that tried to scan the crater fried instantly, data feeds scrambled, opticals shattered, and one drone even returned, melted. Not destroyed by heat. By presence. But from the ashes the Guardian rose. Its voice echoed across the globe without sound, only knowing. Every human felt it in their bones. In their marrow. A whisper that said, I have returned. Not to lead. But to end what never should have begun. Terran High Command, Emergency Broadcast Channel Omega No. Admiral Rena Holt stood before the largest command hologram ever activated, her fingers laced tightly behind her back. Before her floated the real-time image of the Guardian, black crystalline wings spread wide, plasma swirling around its feet like fog on the sea. She hadn't spoken in minutes. No one had. A junior officer finally broke the silence. What do we call it? Cashin Vale, standing at her side, answered quietly. We don't name forces of nature. We survive them. Holt turned toward the text. I want everything we've ever archived on Guardian-class constructs. Dig up pre-council myths. Genetic logs. AI memory shards. I don't care if it's in Sanskrit or Martian dream script. Find me. Answers. A woman from xenopsychology looked up from her console, pale and trembling. Ma'am, we ran a back parse of the Guardian's activation phrase. The one it broadcast to the planet. And? It wasn't speaking English. Or any human language. Then what was it? The woman swallowed. It was speaking Earth. Earth, below the Atlantic Site-Sharon. The Guardian was not the only thing waking. Across the globe, ancient sites, once thought to be ruined bunkers, dormant terraforming stations or precursor artifacts, began humming. Vibrations deep below the crust, like drums calling to something slumbering beneath. Site-Sharon, buried beneath 4 miles of oceanic crust, cracked open. Inside, a sealed vault burst with emerald light. Glyphs on the walls glowed. And in the center, something breathed, not lungs, not air, just motion. Waiting. The automated drone that breached the chamber recorded one phrase before being atomized by a pulse. If the Guardian stirs, the Warden must rise. Mars, the dying red storm. The ancient storm that had raged across Mars's equator for over 1,000 years, stopped. Just stopped. It had been named after gods. Songs were written about it. Some called it the breath of Mars. Now it was gone. And where the storm ended, something was seen on satellite. A symbol. A perfect circular engraving miles wide revealed in the dust. A sigil humanity had never seen, but the Guardian had. Because it turned its head sharply toward the Martian sky. And it remembered. Space, the rift grows teeth. Out near Jupiter the rift did not wait. It pulsed again, this time with malice. A council destroyer, once cloaked and observing, tried to flee. The rift reached out with what could only be described as tendrils of unreality. Time bent. Hulls aged 1,000 years in seconds. Communication burst into reverse static in syllables that made no sense. Weakness within, find you, stars scream in turning. And then, from the rift, emerged the first shape. It was not a ship. It had no engines. No weapons in any sense Terrans would recognize. It was a construct of hunger. A cathedral of shadow and void. A thing that had seen the Guardian before. And it had come to finish the war it lost. Earth. The Guardian moves. In a single step, it crossed 1,000 meters. Its wings refracted light and bent it into darkness. Birds died in midair when they flew too close. The ground beneath its feet did not burn. It simply ceased to be dirt and became something older, like the ruins of forgotten battles. It walked toward the sea. Cassian Vale watched from a distant carrier drone, his eyes narrowed. Where's it going? Holt asked. Cassian exhaled. It's not going anywhere. It's going back. That's where the first war ended. Rena blinked. First war? You mean the Council rebellions? Cassian shook his head slowly. No. I mean the war between creation and the thing that came after. Galactic Council, exiled remnants. The Council, such as it was, heard the ripple. Across 10,000 systems, encoded pulses triggered failsafes. Ancient ones. And all across the stars, species began remembering what they were not supposed to know. That once, long ago, Earth had not been a planet of primitives. It had been the battleground. Where the last guardian of the star-forged legions had held the line, not for humanity who were yet unborn, but for the very fabric of existence. And that now, with it awake again, the other side would answer. And they had no guardians left. Return to the sea, the guardian's path. It stepped into the ocean like a god returning home. Water parted. Clouds twisted. Animals fled the depths before its approach. Whales screamed in frequencies only the most ancient of Terran sensors could pick up. And then it descended. Miles beneath. To the deepest trench on Earth, Mariana Prime. A place humanity never truly explored. Because every probe sent returned only one word in 1,000 languages. Leave. Now the Guardian returned. Not to explore, but to open what had been sealed. Its sword burned to life, plasma flowing through veins of myth-forged metal. And it carved the sea open. In the rift, the enemy stirs. The construct of hunger watched. It pulsed. From its walls emerged limbs. From its limbs, eyes. And from those eyes, shapes peeled off, things that used to be stars, twisted into engines of entropy. They did not move like ships. They moved like choices unmade. And they did not travel through space. They folded it. Toward Earth. Toward the Guardian. Toward the next war. Final scene, the Guardian speaks again. As it broke through the sea floor, the Guardian reached a vault. A massive gate etched with the names of gods long dead. It touched the center. And the gate dissolved. Behind it, nothing. Or rather, the memory of something that should not be. The Guardian raised its blade, pointed it at the void within, and said, "You are not forgotten. But I have returned. And this time, you do not leave." A tremor shook the planet. Stars shifted. And the sky began to bleed. Darkness wasn't absence. It was presence. Moved. And now the darkness had come calling. From the rift beyond Jupiter, the first horror emerged into real space. A being not designed for life or death, but for unmaking. Its form defied comprehension. Geometry that contradicted itself, limbs that unfolded from dimensions without names and eyes, dozens of them, that did not see but remembered. And they remembered Earth. Mariana Trench, core depths, Earth. The Guardian stood before the vault, sword drawn, black-blue plasma humming down its spine. Behind the now open gate lay a tunnel not made by tools, but by consent, as though the planet had willingly bared its throat. The walls of the tunnel pulsed softly with breathless life. Symbols burned on the edges. Names, prophecies, warnings. All in languages that predated the stars. The Guardian stepped inside. Above, across the oceans, satellites began to drop. One by one. Something in orbit had blinked into existence and was eating light. Orbit of Earth. The maw unfolds. The Council vessel didn't stand a chance. It hadn't even been a warship, just a stealth monitor left behind to spy on humanity's supposed decline. It had barely time to register the rift-born construct, let alone act, before it was enveloped in shadow. The construct's maw opened, petals of black iron and gravity, and the Council ship unraveled. Not exploded. Not destroyed. Simply reduced. To what? No one knew. But somewhere, systems across the galaxy registered the ship as never having existed. Earth, New Geneva Command Corps. Prime Executor Lyra Shen watched the feed collapse. That was in orbit. It just blinked out. Cassian Vale nodded grimly. The rift doesn't send ships. It sends wounds. That construct isn't here to fight. It's here to make Earth forget itself. One piece at a time. He turned to the console and opened a data sequence. A lock no one had dared access in 2 centuries. Protocol 1/9, Final Sunday. Holt frowned. You're joking. That's theoretical tech based on precursor radiation waves. We never even verified. We don't need verification. Cassian's voice dropped. We need hope. Hope. Shin laughed bitterly. Against that. Cassian didn't look up. We have the Guardian. That's more than anyone's ever had. Mariana Core, the Chamber of Chains. Inside the Earth's deepest secret, the Guardian reached the chamber. It was vast. Older than tectonics. A globe of chains suspended in molten gravity, each linked the size of cities. At its heart, a prison. A seed. Not of life but of undoing. The core of the rift. The Guardian raised its blade, and laid it against the chains. Not to break them, but to seal them again. Because something was stirring inside the seed. And it hadn't forgotten the war either. The rift construct, voice of the hollow. Above Earth the construct pulsed again. But this time it spoke. The sound was not sound. It was pressure, psychic weight crushing across bandwidths no human mind could resist. People across Earth collapsed, screaming. Some bled from their eyes. Others simply stopped breathing. A single phrase echoed across the planet. The Guardian breaks its bonds. We have come to collect its sin. Cassian stared at the comm screen. It's not talking to us. Lyra's knuckles whitened. It's talking to the Guardian. Mars, the first defense. Mars was never meant to be a battlefield again. But the sigil carved by the ceasing of the storm had activated a cache humanity hadn't known existed. From beneath Olympus Mons, a launch platform rose, ancient and golden, humming with light that pulsed in sync with the Guardian. And then, they emerged. Sunsworn. Massive drones, each the size of a frigate, launched into orbit flying not by thrust but by intention. Not AI. Not machine. Something in between. The Sunsworn had one directive: intercept rift incursions. Their target locked. Their wake burned. And they struck the construct over Earth. But the construct laughed. It absorbed one. Shattered two. Only the third made contact, piercing it just slightly, just enough. To make it bleed. Not blood. But memory. Earth, New Geneva. We hit it, an operator cried. Confirmed impact from Sunsworn Unit Bravo 6. It's shedding something. On the screen, fragments of the construct burned in orbit, and where they fell, the land responded. Craters opened. Stone groaned. Ancient structures rose from beneath the soil like seeds awakened. Cassian's eyes widened. They're not ruins. They're receivers. For what? Shin asked. For the Guardian's second gift. Mariana Core, the seed cracks. The Guardian stood motionless as the chains around the seed trembled. From within the orb came a sound. Not from throat or matter. It was a memory. A shriek once heard in a dying star. The Guardian lowered its blade. I killed you once, it said, voice echoing through the mantle. You did, the seed replied, its voice like oil over water. But this time humanity made room for me. The Guardian hesitated. It had not expected that. The rift widens. Space tore again. This time not near Jupiter. Near Earth. An impossible thing clawed through the fabric of the void, shrieking as it came. No name for it existed, but in a council tongue long extinct, it would have been called the grief of stars. The Guardian lifted its eyes from the depths. Its wings flared. And for the first time since awakening, it moved in fury. Final scene, Titan falls. The moon of Titan, once used by council agents as a secret archive, exploded. Not by weapon. By message. A pulse from the rift struck it, a data shard carrying a message not for the mind but for the soul. The moon died screaming in languages no being should know. Earth's upper atmosphere flickered. Cassian looked up, horrified. Titan is gone. Lyra's voice was barely audible. We're not fighting to survive anymore. No, Cassian whispered. Now we're fighting to remember. In the deep, the Guardian roared. Stars blinked. The rift trembled. And the true war had only just begun. Beneath the crust of Earth, in the blackened depths of the Mariana Core, the seed cracked open. It did not shatter like glass. It peeled as though reality itself was being undone in ribbons. The void inside was not darkness. It was absence, something that predated the concept of space, of time, of being. And from that chasm rose a voice, not heard but known, etched into the hearts of every sentient being. I remember the beginning. You should never have been. The guardian stood unmoved, sword lowered, wings folded, silent. And then, finally, it answered. And yet here they are. Humanity stands. I did not make them, but I will not abandon them. New Geneva Strategic Command Hall. The global quake hit. Seismic sensors overloaded. Weather systems collapsed. Lightning storms arced across every continent as the seed's influence pulsed outward. Dozens of satellites dropped offline. Ancient bunkers activated on auto-response. Half the world held its breath. Contact from the core, an officer cried. The seed has split. Something's rising, mass unknown. Commander Holt slammed her fist onto the command table. Get Cashin back. Get every black site asset online. Now. But Cashin was already gone. He'd left without orders. He knew where he needed to be. Mariana Rift, the rise of the forgotten. The creature emerging from the seed could not be classified. It was a being of intention, not matter. A parasite of existence. Its form constantly shifted. Nebulae, beasts, blades, mouths, voids, all at once and none at all. And it spoke a single truth to the Guardian. You are bound by the old laws. This world has broken them. They belong to me. The Guardian's eyes ignited. Not fire. Not plasma. But remembrance. And it stepped forward, sword blazing brighter than a sun. Then come and take them. Deep orbit, humanity's last play. Earth's orbital grid was in chaos. The rift construct had split into a dozen fragments, each worming through space-time toward major population centers. Interceptor fleets fell by the hour. But from Mars, from Venus, from Titan's shattered remains, something stirred. The Sunsworn were not alone anymore. Humanity had unlocked more than ruins. It had awakened inheritance. From within the precursor vaults, Earth launched its hidden legacy. Ships without fuel, armor grown from planetary cores, weapons powered by concepts stolen from dying quasars. They were not human-built. But they answered only to human hands. Cashin Vale, descent. Cashin's ship screamed through the gravity funnel above the Pacific, aimed straight at the trench. Below, seismic anomalies threatened to snap the entire crust open. He was alone in the cockpit. Just him and a relic. A shard of something the Guardian had once left behind. A blade fragment carved from time itself. He clenched it in his fist. And dove straight into hell. The final war, Guardian versus the Forgotten. The Guardian struck first. Not with blade. But with meaning. Its roar split tectonics. It carved sigils into the sea. It rewrote the battlefield with every step. The Forgotten One met it with entropy, folding the sea into dust, turning gravity inside out, collapsing ideas into pain. They clashed. Again and again. Every strike from the Guardian birthed life. Every counter from the Forgotten erased history. Above, the sky split open, the rift swelling wider, dozens of void-born horrors spilling through. And that's when Earth answered. All of humanity, Earth's cry. Across the globe, the sleeping systems activated. Civilians watched in terror as ancient towers rose from beneath cities, mountains split to reveal forges of unknowable design, and light, not from suns but from memory, pierced the sky. The Guardian looked up. Its voice echoed not in space but in every human mind. They are not my creation. But they are my final defense. Humanity rose. Pilots synced with technology older than war. Engineers interfaced with constructs grown in zero-point labs. Civilians flocked to shelters that were actually conduits, amplifiers, of the Guardian's strength. Together they formed something never before seen. A species that refused extinction. Cashin, contact. Cashin reached the Guardian mid-battle. His ship folded time to stand beside it. His blade fragment pulsed with resonance. The Guardian turned, regarding him. You were not meant to stand here. Cashin smirked. You left this behind for someone. Might as well be me. He leapt from the ship, fragment in hand. And merged. For the first time in eons, the Guardian had a pilot. Not a master. Not a creator. A witness. And together they roared. The rift breaks. The fusion of human will and Guardian might tip the balance. The Forgotten One staggered. The rift pulsed, its stability fracturing. The construct above Earth screamed in reverse tongues as the Guardian Cashin hybrid dove upward, sword spinning with solar fury. And with a single strike, they severed the rift's anchor. The construct collapsed in on itself, void folding into a singularity of memory and loss. And the stars went quiet. Aftermath, the silence after. The Guardian fell. Not broken. Just done. Its body, burned and cracked, landed on the plains of Patagonia, still and silent. Cashin, barely alive, crawled from the cockpit formed within its chest. All across Earth the towers powered down. The sky cleared. And the seed? Rebound. Buried. Forgotten, once more. But not erased. Never again erased. The monument, 10 years later. A shrine stands where the Guardian last breathed. A crystalline giant, preserved in time. Around it a city formed, not built but grown. It does not run on power grids or gravity anchors. It runs on remembrance. Above it floats a plaque inscribed in every human tongue. We were never meant to survive. But when the stars turned against us, we spoke back. Final scene, unknown depths. Far away in the dark between galaxies, the rift twitches. Not in power. In fear. Because humanity survived. Because the Guardian did not fall. And because the stars know now. Earth remembers. The end. Cyclone, thanks for journeying through this epic saga. If you love this story and want more tales of humanity standing defiant in the face of cosmic horrors, ancient enemies and impossible odds, subscribe to the Void Narratives. Your support fuels the next myth, the next war, the next unforgettable legend. Humanity's story is just getting started. Subscribe now. Join the fight.